Hello and welcome back to my small little library. Today I want to do a book recommendation video of a book I think that it's totally weird. I never thought I would actually like the book, but in the end I think it's a rather impactful book to read. It's The Hippopotamus by Stephen Fry. The book actually came out in the year that I was born, so it is nearly 30 years old now, which is crazy, but yeah, it was published in it was first published in 1994. So yeah, that's kind of crazy how old the book is. But yeah, so I don't know how prevalent the book still is. I got it secondhand. I had no idea about it. I have read other books by Stephen Fry, but mostly the ones that go into mythology and stuff like that, and not a contemporary novel. Especially since I'm not really a contemporary novel reader at all. I much prefer fantasy and sci-fi. So I was really surprised that in the end I really enjoyed the novel, and so I kind of wanted to do like quickly share the book, like not make like a long video about it. I don't want to dissect the book. I'm not really interested in that, but I kind of want to share the gist of the story and why I think the book is so impactful and why I think it's actually in all of the funniness of it. It has a really good deeper meaning that is really important actually, as much as the book is disgusting at points, which we might come back to, but yeah, I'm just gonna have to prepare you. There are topics in this book that are really not nice. They have to do with sexual things, incest, and animals. And yeah, I was really surprised by it. I didn't see it coming at the beginning, and it was quite disgusting. But I feel like they are rather important to the story and to get the point across, which, you know, I don't say often about those things in books. So yeah, that is kind of a weird thing. To get to the gist of it, the story, we have our main character who's called Ted Wallace, and he's pretty much a loser, if you want to call it like that. He's an alcoholic. He really isn't a nice person, if you look at it, and he is really failing at his job at a newspaper because he's like, you know, he's like the womanizer that drinks too much alcohol, and kind of nobody really likes him because he's just not a nice person to be around, for all of his opinions and his crankiness and kind of like his annoyance at the world and what is happening. And so he gets fired from his job and he doesn't really know what to do with himself. And so his idea is to just go to his friend's manor. His friend is a lord, and just stay there for a little bit. And he actually gets invited by, I think, the niece of the lord. Because he just knows quite a bit of his family, and the niece has an illness and she feels like she isn't living long enough, and she pretty much is saying to Ted, you know, there's strange things happening at that banner, and I need somebody who isn't part of the family to go there, look at it, and tell me what on earth are you thinking about what is happening there. And so Ted is like, you know, I need the distraction anyway, so why not go there and write her letters about what is happening there. And he's like, you know, it's gonna be nothing, and I don't really need to, you know, care about it. And so he goes. And in this manner, there are really weird things happening, and it's really awkward, his whole kind of visit there. And most of that has to do with a child that is living there who is like, you know, a young child on the brink of puberty. And oh my god, I'm gonna say a spoiler warning here, because up until then, you know, it's pretty spoilerless. It's the beginning of the book, and the whole book is pretty much about what is happening there, and Ted kind of uncovering what is happening and kind of confronting everybody with like, oh my god, what is wrong with you? And yeah, that is pretty much it. The rest of the story, there isn't really much more to the story, but the oh my god, what is wrong with you is so important in the end that it's just really impactful. So yeah, I'm gonna give a spoiler warning now, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about what is happening there and why I think it's such a great topic to talk about in a book. Though I do have to also tell, it's definitely a bit of a comedy. So a lot of scenes are made for you to laugh about. And the horrible things happening here are like kind of made to be funny, which I personally found a little bit strange. It doesn't sit like quite completely right with me, but I think it's what the book is going for, like on purpose, and I think it's a way for a lot of people to deal with what is happening in the book, which is kind of, fitting and kind of makes sense all in all. But yeah, for me, it was really uncomfortable. I don't have great humor, like a lot of people in my life can tell you that. I have a weird, strange humor that doesn't really fit in with a lot of people. I think I'm just not good at understanding humor, and so that book is definitely like, it got on my like boundaries of humor that I can understand and be okay with at times. But yeah, the problem is that the boy, because of an incident in his childhood, believes he has healing powers. And all of the people in his family kind of know, but nobody really talks about it, so it's all just really like hush hush about it. And nobody knows how he does the healing, which he obviously doesn't do the healing. I mean, we can all be honest, he doesn't have healing powers. It's not a fantasy. But the problem is that the first healing happened and the boy just discovered masturbating. And he kind of did his own conclusions about the things, and he is convinced that his healing powers have to do with having sex and masturbating and all of that. And a lot of family comes to him to heal it, and then his horse gets ill. And he, it's a child. The child wants to help. And because his family indirectly praises him for what he has done, and nobody is like, oh, you have to heal people, but they're all like, oh, it was so nice that happened. And so he feels kind of obligated to help, but he feels like he has to have sex with the people, the person, the animal, whatever he wants to help. And that is what is happening in this novel. And just talking about it, it is absolutely disgusting. But I feel like it's so important, the discussion about what like the environment brings young children to do, because obviously he only got the idea that it's something he should do, and that is, that he has special talent because of how his family reacted to the initial incident, which I don't quite remember how the initial incident went. So you would have to read the book, to know the details, because it's it's a while ago since I read it. But it has stayed in my head all this time. And so yeah, it's the book pretty much with humor and disgusting scenes kind of conveys how problematic it can be when people give like indirect influence to children, and then it's not openly talked about what is happening, and everybody in secret tries to profit from what they think the child can do, and the child just wants to please his relatives. And it all pretty much only comes to a head when he tries to more or less force himself on, I think it's his cousin, but also a child, a female child in the family. And obviously, she doesn't know what he's doing, because also she's mentally disabled. And so she doesn't really understand. And obviously, it's not okay. And they get caught in the act by our main character, actually. But not in the act, but like whilst the boy is trying to help her in the way he only understands he can help, because he is convinced that he has this power, because the adults convince him that he has this power. And yeah, it obviously all comes to a head from there. And yeah, it's a really, really weird story, but I feel like it can teach you so much about the influence adults have on children, and how how horrible and harmful it is to not include your children in adult discussions. Like, you don't have to discuss everything with them, but I feel like there are a lot of topics where people are like, no, he's too young. But like, he isn't. Like, children, like, realize way more what is happening around them than adults give them credit for a lot of the times. And yeah, that is pretty much the gist of the story. There's a lot more happening, a lot more in between. We have a lot more of the humor, of the letters, of the interaction between Ted and the woman who invites him, because she also plays a much bigger role in the book, actually, than at first glance, And yeah, I think it's a really, really, really good book to read, as much as some scenes are disgusting. There isn't really much like graphical in there, but I feel like reading about it afterwards, and when Ted is like, oh my god, that happened, about the horse that lives on the property, there are quite a few disgusting scenes, scenes that are just wrong. And yeah, but the book kind of, it's not like the book makes it horrible. Like, the book kind of tries to go about it in a way that is digestible, while still getting this like message across how much of just like how disturbed the child is, pretty much, because of the expectations and what happened, and all of that. So yeah, I think it's a read that everybody should read once. I think definitely it's a good topic, especially if you are around children. But I feel like it can teach you kind of a lot for a fictional novel, obviously, and it's kind of interesting. I feel like it's nothing what I would have imagined the novel to be, especially with a title, The Hippopotamus. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't give much away of the novel, and I feel like even if you read the blurb, it doesn't convey what the novel is actually about, which is also why I wanted to do this video, because I think like if you would just look it up on Amazon, for example, and you would read the blurb, you would not know what is actually going to happen in the novel. And yeah, that is kind of crazy and surprising. I think it makes sense, but on the other hand, I think personally you should be a little bit more prepared for what is happening, but obviously they don't want to spoil it for you, so I spoiled it for you. But yeah, I think it's actually one of my favorite novels by Stephen Fry I've read so far. I'm not really much interested in a lot of his other novels. As I said, I'm not much of a contemporary reader, but I think there's one contemporary novel that everybody should actually read, because of the crazy things happening in there. And I don't know if the message is intended to be that message, but I felt like you could actually take a lot away from the book, which, for like a comedic drama, I feel like is kind of, well, at least for me it was surprising, because, it's not something I read often, and I wasn't really prepared for taking away so much from the novel. But yeah, it was a great read. For me, it was 4 stars, because obviously I didn't love everything in the book, but like the general gist of the book was really amazing, to be honest. I feel like it is really, really impactful as a read. And yeah, if you are prepared for it, go for it. Maybe get the ebook, get a novel. I don't know. I'm assuming that they should be pretty cheap to get secondhand, because they are so old. I don't know if there are newer copies of them out there. I haven't looked that up, because obviously I own a copy. I don't need another one. But yeah, go out, get it, read it at least once, and revel in the craziness that is The Hippopotamus by Stephen Fry. So yeah, that is kind of all I wanted to let out about the novel. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it's a great read. I think you should read it. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this small little book recommendation / review. And yeah, hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!